I used to identify myself as a base jumper. If somebody ever asked me, like, well, who are you? What are you? I'm like, I'm a base jumper. And it's funny too, because like I surfed, but I wouldn't call myself a surfer. I
Right.
snowboarded. I didn't call myself a snowboarder. Hell, I did over 6,000 skydives. I never called myself a skydiver. I wasn't a skydiver.
Right.
I identified as a base jumper. That's like what I was. It was my identity. And then all of a sudden, very recently, this is just in the last year, I had someone ask me, what are you? And it was the first time since I was 16 years old that I didn't say I was a base jumper. It was the first time where I'm like, you know what? I'm nothing. I'm a human being having an experience. And I just love my life, and I love everything that's in it. And I don't really identify as any of these things anymore. I'm just here for the experience of life itself.
Wow.
And it was a very profound moment, because I did somehow get over that hump of depression and sadness. And now I wake up in the morning and I'm happy. Every day that I can get out of bed and go to the bathroom by myself without help, I'm happy. Any day I wake up and I'm not in excruciating pain, I'm happy. Any day I'm not in a prison cell, I'm happy.
Right.
It's strange just to be awake and alive and conscious and seeing the world and all the incredible things that are happening. Are they just make me happy, and I'm just enjoy.
Yeah.
I remember when that change happened to you, because we've been talking about dying so openly, and we've been laughing about it. Oh, which one is going to be for
Oh,
me?
we're in competition. Who's going to die first?
Yeah, and it was friendly competition, but we took it very seriously.
But I always thought, if I recall, that you own his soul.
No,
Well,
other
yeah,
way
it was
around.
just- yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
His
changed.
soul. No, it's always been.
Oh.
Yeah, because Jeb always, when I met him, like he's always dressed dark, and for like 2 first years I thought he was like a devil's worshipper, and then it took me like, oh, he's just joking about it. So, but it took a little while. But going back to the story, like, I mean, I remember, because we were joking so much about the death, and we were willing to face it. And every day, like, we woke up and almost realizing that today is a good day to die. But then I had already got injured, and I had stopped jumping, and I found other interest in life, and continued to find passions and that fuel and give me a purpose. But I think there was an interesting change that happened in you. I think you were living in Marina del Rey at the time, and I talked to your mother, and I think she had asked, like, if you, because there's a good chance besides dying that we might get paralyzed and we might be in a vegetative state. So she had asked Jeb, like, I mean, if you're getting this injury and then you're like a vegetable at home, like, how long, like, what should I do? And usually Jeb would say, like, save the planet, pull the plug. Let's save, let's save that to a light bulb, and let's not have it on my machine. But you had told your mom that at least a year, like, I think, like, there has to be a chance. So I think that was like, wow, like, I mean, like, that was whole, like, your perspective had changed, and you really started, and I could see in you, like, I mean, it happened when you were the most hardcore in the base jumping. Then it was like a destructive phase, but that kind of a change and the growth and maturing that I've seen, and I contribute a lot to these extreme activities that you've been everything on it. But I remember there was just a certain period, like a switch that had happened in your head, and that it was interesting to learn.
Well, and it was Table Mountain. It's interesting. We're gonna talk about this at a different time, but I had an experience that occurred when I was 35, and I had a terminal accident, like an unsurvivable accident. Like I if you had told me before the accident that you could survive what I survived, I wouldn't believe that it was possible. Like, it was a guaranteed death. And I was laying in the hospital after it, and I remembered laying there staring at the ceiling, and it was strange what happened, because I spent 6 weeks kind of by myself in a room alone. Iiro was there for like the first week or two, but he had to leave, and eventually I was alone, and no one came to visit me. I was by myself, and all I had was my thoughts, and I couldn't move. I was literally crippled in a way that I couldn't even roll on my side because my leg was open, and I had skin grafting, and it was brutal. It was really bad. But a really bizarre thought entered my mind. At that stage, I was a very childish person. My mind worked in a very childish way. And I had lived my life as if I was going to die that day. I treated every day as if it was my last day. I never thought more than 2 weeks in advance. There was what I was doing right now and what I was going to be doing in 2 weeks from now. That's it. That's all there was. I didn't look in the past. I didn't look beyond 2 weeks. The thought of living past 30 was impossible. Like, there's no way I'm making it past 30. I'm going to die before that period, the end. I just accepted it. Here I am. I've just had an accident that is unsurvivable, that I survived. I'm 35 years old, and a thought that had never entered my mind all of a sudden came to me. And it's like, well, if that didn't kill me, what happens if I live to be 40? And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. What if I make it to 50? And then all of a sudden, this creeping fear started crawling down my back. I'm like, what if I make it to 60? And I was like, it had never dawned on me that was even a remote possibility. Like it never had entered my mind. And all of a sudden I realized I wasn't scared to die. I was never afraid to die. I had accepted death my entire life. I knew I was going to die, but I had never thought about what it would mean to live. And all of a sudden I realized, holy shit, I'm terrified of life. I'm actually terrified of living. And I realized that I had been living a very an unsustainable existence where death was the only outcome. There is no other outcome than death. And all of a sudden I'm like, well, if I make it to 50, like I didn't have any regrets. Like the way I look back on my life, I'm like, I was good with every decision I made and I was happy with the human that I was. But I started projecting forward. And I'm like, okay, let's say I make it to 50, right? How much longer can I earn a living like this? Not much. I could, a year, 2 years? I didn't even know I could be crippled. I may never be able to jump and make money again. So I'm like, what am I skilled to do? I mean, I've literally spent my life training to jump off buildings and cliffs. That's not a skill that translates, right? It's not like there's some other job I'm going to get with that, right? So I'm like, I've been just burning all my resources. The way I looked at it is if I died with even one penny in the bank, then I'd failed at life, which is a very childish way of thinking, and I'm like, if I'm 50 and I'm working at Walmart as a greeter, like signing tags and stuff, I'm going to be really pissed off that I had just thrown all my resources away. And I'm like, I need to absolutely fundamentally change my root programming. I need to start saving. I need to start investing. I need to start planning for the eventuality that I might not die. And I had never thought about it. It was this, it sounds almost stupid. Like as I'm saying it, it's like, this is the dumbest shit everyone thinks.
Well, it's a second dumbest thing. Dumbest thing is what I did. I had saved a retirement plan and I thought I'd gonna die at 27. So I cast my retirement plan and fucking wasted it. So that is the dumbest thing you could do.
But I have to say, again, if we're swinging back to our subject of mental well-being, the fact that both of you were able to use something, again, that is such a risky activity, and you guys were able to kind of recalibrate your mind in a specific way that saved you, which I think is phenomenal. I mean, I know I want to go down another road, but before we get into that, I want to ask you a question. You've told us, as we were all hanging out, since we haven't been together in person for 6 years, you told us a funny story that we were getting a laugh out of about someone else or other people commenting again on your well-being or your mental state.
I've been getting called crazy for a long time. Yeah.
Okay. Could you expand on that? Because it's interesting again to hear certain people, which is funny when other people have to speak up and label other people and say you're crazy, and they're saying Iiro's crazy, you're crazy, and it's like, okay.
Well, it's fascinating. I've been called crazy forever because I am, but at that time I didn't really think I was, but now looking back, it's like they were calling me crazy because it's just a very accurate description of the shit that I was doing. But one day I was in Malibu and I was surfing and I was out in the lineup and I was younger, in my early 20s, and I'd just kind of gotten into base jumping. I just started making money doing it. And you're out in the lineup and you bump into people and you start talking to people in between sets. And this guy starts talking to me and he tells me how he's like, computer, like he's in the computer business doing like programming and stuff. And I'm like, oh, that's cool, whatever. And he's like, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I'm a base jumper. And he's like, what's that? He'd never even heard of it. He didn't know what it was. And I'm like, okay. So I start giving him a little explanation of, what I do, what base jumping is. And his response kind of shocked me a little bit. It was very surprising. And he's like, well, so in other words, you're a crazy person. And I'm like, well, I mean, maybe, I don't know. He's like, I don't respect crazy people. And I was like, what? It was like just a weird thing to have. And I mean, he's a surfer. You wouldn't expect a surfer to say something like that to someone, because you'd think they kind of get it. They're surfing, so they should have a somewhat understanding. So I'm like, okay, that's an interesting thing to say. I'm like, you want to know what I think is crazy? And he's like, yeah. I would love to know what a crazy person thinks is crazy. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to tell you what. I think waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning, eating some breakfast, getting in your car and driving for an hour on your way to a job, where you then sit in a box for 8 hours. You maybe get a 30-minute lunch break, and then you get back in your car. You drive home in traffic again for another hour. You eat some dinner, you watch some TV, you go to sleep. You then repeat that process 5 days a week for, I don't know, 60 years? And then you retire, and then you die. And I think that is absolutely fucking insane. And he's like, touche. And it's funny because I'm going to say this, we talk about mental illness, and it's becoming a very big topic, and it seems to be something that's impacting most people. And I will say that in my life, of the people who I've gotten to know, I have not met a single person who does not have some type of mental struggle. I've never met someone. And now I've seen people who are very good at covering it up and hiding it, but everyone who I've actually gotten to really know them, you actually start really talking to them. And then, I'm very open with my mental struggles. And it seems like when you're open with people, they become more open with you. And I've noticed that everyone I've ever met has something going on.
Yeah.
It's I think consciousness is very challenging. It's very heavy. It's very difficult, and life is hard for everybody, and none of us has it figured out, and we're all doing the best that we can, and we're all trying to somehow survive, and that's what life is. You're in a constant struggle against gravity. Gravity is trying to pull you into the ground and freaking crush you. That's just all it is, and eventually it will, and we all know that. We're all very well aware of where we're going, and it's terrifying.
Well, look, since you've gone down that road, and we're going to go a little deeper into that if Iiro will allow us. Look, I just want to get a little bit more. I know for some people, I mean, even for myself, like asking for help, as we've been kind of molded into these men or individuals where we got it all figured out, and we don't need help from fucking anybody, and blah blah blah. Because I don't like to ask for help. Mm-hmm. And I know all of us have a certain perception, and of course we're extremely close. But I know it's important to put it out there, I think, for people that even like the toughest of people that can do such extreme high risk things have to ask for help. And I know you, of course, are a brother to me, both of you. And I always look to you as like the rock. And I'm always like, oh, if I did have a problem, I would call Iiro, because Iiro, he's the guy that will come over and he'll bail us out, or he would do this and that. And I know that you've gone down a dark path, and you've had to, actually get over a fear, and you might not have had a fear of it, but have had to ask for help and to deal with some serious issues that,
Yeah, I think it's important. I think before going to that, I think it's important to little bit maybe define crazy. Here we go telling that we are crazy persons, and we haven't been officially diagnosed as crazy people. There's also crazy actions. So what we do is for many people it's very crazy. But like we talked before, for us to make sense and more than maybe curing, I think it was about coping. So we try to find a purpose in this world and our place in it. So and that kind of a base jumping and risk fit like a glove. And I don't think it did definitely help me with my suicidal thoughts. But then obviously we all have, like Jeb was saying, we all have mental struggles. So it doesn't mean that we're batshit crazy and put poop on our face and run around naked.
There's definitely levels of crazy.
So there is definitely levels that we talk about, and then there's different craziness. So mine is kind of going in back to the childhood, and I didn't know that I had mental problems. But a lot of the things, like the behavior that I had created for myself in my childhood, which was a defense mechanism from them. And if you get bullied enough and you get physically attacked, you want to fight back. So rather than allowing a certain situation last for long, I learned very, very young age. So you react like aggression with, or bullying with aggression and violence, and it became my reaction to many things. So I didn't know that the kind of what I'm talking about, my crazy was, there was a lot of the problems that my self-esteem was hit very low when I was younger. So I had to constantly create an ego and overperform and overachieve to feel good about myself. And that came back to Jeb and having a status. So I saw okay, I'm not me, but I was a famous magician, and that was my identity. And then base jumper, that became my identity. So I wasn't comfortable in my own skin. I just wanted to be something else. I wanted to hold that title because that title brought me, I guess, respect that I was craving, because I had such a bad self-esteem when I was younger. But then life kind of, we can fast forward a little bit. So I tried therapy, but I didn't really find it. It didn't really fit. Those were not the right therapist. And I said, therapy doesn't work. It's not for me. And I don't have a problem. I have a large network of friends. So my therapy has been that I got around with my friends and we had a few beers and I opened my heart and they listen and I got a big weight off my shoulders. So I've always had a support network. But then in 2017, I was living in Cape Town and we encountered a horrible tragedy. Like my family were victims of a murders, and that really hit hard for all of us, and especially my wife who lost her twins, and I could see the change, or the importance of therapy. Like she took it very seriously, and she got really help, and it's an issue that she constantly have to work with, and I was her rock also in that situation. So I didn't, like, I thought I was just a man, like therapy is for like sissies, like I'm a strong man, like I'm just like hold my ground, and I just gonna box these like negative feelings, and I'm not gonna talk to them, I'm not gonna react to them. You can't see that I'm sad, but you can't really box emotions. Like every time you go through these griefs and anger and all these issues, if you don't deal with them, if you don't process them, they're gonna be somewhere locked inside of you, and then it's gonna burst out. There's gonna be some triggers and they're going to be bursting out. So that's kind of where I was. I was like, I didn't go to the therapy.
Hi, my name is Iiro from the video that you just watched. This was a short insert from our full episode of No Fear episode 3. If you want to watch the full episode, please subscribe to our channel and watch it there. Thank you very much for your support.